then, you know.
Yeah, well, it's like what are the connections we're making? You know, what are we? I went ahead and let Christine and Lucy in. Like what's the parallel? How do these things? Because they sort of seemingly like, well, of course, but then you go, no, how does that work? And for those of us who don't, you know, who teach like a spoken, like a not signed language, what's the appropriate way to say, like to designate the difference? Like the way that between character languages and non-character languages, like, is there a way to categorize if I say I teach just not ASL, like because I teach Spanish?
Well, I've heard some say it's a manual language. Or
wow.
A signed language.
Cool. Okay. So that's okay. Perfect. Yeah. So it's interesting. It can be, I think, a little simpler or maybe more direct to draw. Oh, and also to draw some parallels to non-signed languages. And then I'm super interested to hear. Yay. Awesome. Well, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I've turned the waiting room off, so we're uninterrupted. The door is wide open. And I'll welcome you guys. I know I've seen everybody here, so this is fun. I was saying we're all like done with the computer, and yet there's so much that's available on the computer where it's like, I can't do one more. Ooh, and then I'm still signing up for like virtual things, like in the summer, like, oh, that'll be interesting, but I know I'm going to be hopefully poolside, right? With the AirPods is a little bit different, like with a margarita. That's my kind of, I can get down with that. So you all have joined us before. You know, my name is Meredith White. I teach Spanish just outside of Atlanta. 1 and 2, tomorrow's our last day. Phew. And we are wrapping up this series on June 3rd, which should be a week from Thursday, I believe. So as we wrap up, I'm excited to have Cami and Janelle both. You guys are 2 hours difference or 3 hours difference? 2 hours difference, right? It's 5 there. Okay. I always go like too far with Utah and like not far enough with California. I don't know why I'm like my friends in Nevada. I'm like, I don't know what time it is. Like, I'm not helpful. Nelson and I are in Eastern time. So that's where we live. And so, yeah, I'm excited to hear from you guys and hear everything that you've put together. Is it interrupting if I keep the captions on Zoom, or is that okay? Should I keep them on? Okay, perfect. I didn't want it to interrupt kind of like what you've got. So if you want to tell us kind of what you guys are doing this year, like what you're up to. I know you both work as program coordinators, but I would love to hear more about what you do at Brigham Young.
Yeah. Cami, you want to start?
Hi, I'm Cami. So yeah, I'm one of the program coordinators with Janelle, and I actually teach high school as well. I just went to the graduation today.
Oh, wow.
I teach ASL 1 and 2 there.
Cool.
It's been an interesting year, but it felt good to finish it. It really felt good to say, okay, we did this and we're done. So yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, it's so true. I'm Janelle Bullock, and I have these positions, our coordinator positions, are pretty new this year. Last year I was the assistant coordinator, so now they've kind of changed things around. So we actually previously our jobs included teaching assignments, but now they don't. And so we're really just admin right now. But you know, we have lots of teaching experience. I've taught the college level for a long time, but I did do middle school for a few years. We had a middle school here that was teaching ASL, which was amazing. And so, yeah, it was a feeder program into our high school, which ran up through level 4. So we were excited about that. Yeah, we were really excited about that. Anyway, so yeah, if you guys have questions when we're done, feel free to ask. We'd be happy to stay on and I apologize for the dog in the background.
Please. We've had dogs, we've had spouses, we've had children. Everyone has made a guest appearance.
Okay, do you want us to get started?
That'd be great. Love it.
Okay. I think, Cami, am I sharing my screen with this one? Or are you sharing your screen? We didn't really decide who is.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
I'm putting in the chat that you can see the chat. So this is going to be cool because you guys can kind of be more present in a lot of time, in ways that sometimes, like, you know, when you're presenting and in the chat and you're like, I'm trying to keep up with it, because it's like pre-prepared. This is really nice. You can, you know, really kind of be there. It's cool.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and play this. Let me know if there's problems on your end that I can't see.
I'm going to stop my video just to keep the bandwidth low, just in case. If there's sound, we can't hear it, but I don't know. On the bottom where it says share screen, there's a little up arrow. And you should do, oops, hold on. Hit share screen again, just the green button. And there should be bottom left an option that says share computer sound. Should be like a little check box. Let me see. Yeah, share sound.
Under advanced sharing options?
I thought it was, but no, I misspoke. When you, yeah, so when you just like click share screen to reshare and you are choosing the screen, it'll also be bottom left.
Oh,
I got to step ahead of myself. And it's so funny how Zoom's different for different computers, because at school, it lets me do it with that little up arrow, and I have a PC at school and a Mac at home, and it's, again, the adventures we've had this year.
Okay, I'm going to restart this, and then please tell me if it's not working again.
Awesome.
I am Janelle Bullock, and this is...
Hi, I'm Cami Wilding. I am really excited about this as well. This relationship with ACTFL and ASL and how the two can come together is amazing. This changes how we teach, how we think, and how we approach things. So I just wanted to put this little tidbit out there. For many years, the ASL community, including ASL teachers, felt like they were not the same as world languages because ASL is different. And yes, they are correct. ASL is different. It's 3D, is abstract, spatial, is a visual language. The structure and the proficiency level is the same. A few years ago, I saw a workshop. It was an all-day training. And it was just very fast-paced, and it was overwhelming because I wasn't sure how to apply it to ASL. There were some other teachers there who teach ASL, but they weren't really, they were a little lost on how to apply this. We weren't sure what to do. To fast forward to I found out that Janelle and Casey Bond were giving a workshop. So I went and tried to learn from that. I didn't fully understand everything, but I kept watching and I kept trying to figure out how it works, how to teach, how it applies. I wasn't completely clear on it. It took me time to process everything. And that was during the summer. And then that fall, the school district asked me to be on their world language leadership team. And I thought, okay, yeah, that's fine. And we went to the National ACTFL Convention. I had never even heard of ACTFL. I had no idea what the purpose was or anything. There was a group of us teachers that went together. There were a couple of pre-workshops that were going on before the conference. And I went to this one workshop and they talked about proficiency and how you can apply it to the classroom. And I thought, you know, how can I apply this to ASL? Fortunately, I was with a group of teachers who were on the leadership team, which meant that they were really good teachers. And, none of them taught ASL, but we started a discussion, and my lead, who was at my school, she teaches French. She found a website from a school that had already had it set up and applied everything to ASL. So after the convention, I came back and we just kept learning, and I started to really understand different parts of it. So I want to encourage you to have an open mind and try to see how it benefits ASL, how it benefits ASL students, and us as teachers.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add with your comment, a few years ago, I had never even heard of ACTFL either. I didn't know what ACTFL was. It was my, the first time when my boss came and said, hey, do you want to come and learn about this process? And I didn't know about it. So I said, sure. I just agreed to it. And I went and I learned, and wow, it just like you said, it was a lot of overwhelming information. Since the 1960s, ACTFL has been conducting research and studies with various languages on this process, and it has been amazing. The different levels, what you're learning, what it looks like as you progress. Oh, it's incredible, and it does show the proficiency. And Casey and I, my colleague, when we were learning about it, we would have our own interview through that process with our students. And yes, we discovered that you really can apply ACTFL to ASL. So we are excited to help you better understand ACTFL and how you can apply it with ASL. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, perfect. So our purpose today is to help you understand how to apply the guidelines and how you can use it with your students. All right, now understanding the guidelines, an ASL proficiency guide is kind of more of an explanation of what students can do. The actual guideline is what they can do written, speaking, listening with all the languages. And obviously ASL does not include speaking or writing, but we can swap out with receptive and expressive with those terms. ASL can use these guidelines to help students notice what they are able to do with their comprehension or reception and expressive, and to show proficiency. Now, proficiency does not mean perfection, but your students will not be perfect. Okay, hold on. I've got to move my picture. It's in the way. It's blocking my words. Okay. Understanding the guidelines. There are some areas that we focus on. There are levels, and in the side column there on the left side, you can see the levels, and then across the top, we have an expansion of what the students are able to do with the language, what proficiency skills in the different areas that they have. Functions or tasks, we would call them. We have context or content, we have accuracy, and then we have text type. And we'll expand upon all of those in a little bit. But please understand that this chart here, it's not set up being dependent upon certain approaches to teaching or curriculum, or it's not related to any of those kind of things. This is really, it's describing how a student, it does not describe how a student will learn. It doesn't say that you specifically have to learn languages this way. It doesn't. The purpose of this is just to show, as you evaluate and assess your students, what their functional ability is with that language and their skills in it. And so that's really all that is for. Okay, Cami, do you want to take this one, or you want me to? Okay, you go ahead.
Okay, so there's some different terminology that, yeah, you know, at first it took some work to change it in my mind to fit with ASL, but now I can do it without much thought. The function is what we do or how we can communicate. What's the purpose for communicating? For example, novice, they tend to talk about themselves, who I am, what do I like, what do I not like, my family, my experiences, my hobbies, things about me. Intermediate is more of, okay, let's take all these different topics that I've learned so far and just pull from those topics and create my own language, or my own, not my own language, but, you know, let's say I learn about animals and colors. Now I can take from those topics. This is a simple example, but the concept is I can just take from those two topics and say purple cow, instead of saying just, you know, cow, I like cow. I can do a little bit more. I can expand and create sentences and phrases with terminology from different vocabs themes that I have learned already. For advanced, it's more of narration, there's more expansion, more description than details in a storytelling way. Superior means that you can share your opinion and debate and support your opinion. So that is the function, what you can do with the language. Now, text type, at first I thought, you know, this doesn't apply, but, you know, with other languages, you know, they can make it literal. Like if I look at ASL, do I respond in 1 or 2 words? Or do I use a phrase in a sentence? Or do I just really narrate my answer? It can be, yes, I like cows, or no, I don't like horses. Those are very simple sentences. We can expand on that and say, yes, I love cows because they are so cute with their ears. And when we pet them, they're soft. So that is an expansion. And if you went more advanced, you would really, really expand on it, include a lot of details, reasoning, what they can, you know, cows can provide milk. Maybe my cow can jump. This is more higher skills that involves more function, expanding on the information. Then we have accuracy. ACTFL has specific words that, you know, like specific vocab that we teach, or specific signs that we teach for grammar. Speaking applies to the 5 parameters. So the hand shape, the appropriate movements, palm orientation, those things. Facial expressions, you know, are they appropriate and accurate? Fluency, the structure. Do things look fluid? Just looking at the whole thing, your body movements and shifts. We can't expect the first level to master every little detail because they haven't experienced using the language in that way. So it should be according to their level, what is appropriate for their level.
Yeah, something just came to my mind with the advanced level. They will still show mistakes, but those mistakes do not cause confusion or a misunderstanding. I mean, you will still understand the conversation, it will still flow. So it won't be perfect, but the comprehension will be there. It just kind of depends on what level they're at, but yeah.
Yes, one example recently, one of my students in level 2 was talking about the ranking order. She did it this way. And, it was wrong how she used the ranking order, but a person next to me, a teacher that was sitting next to me said, it doesn't matter if that detail is wrong. You still understood what she meant. She just forgot how to start that ranking method. And I actually taught that concept a year and a half before that time. But was it like she was completely wrong? No, for that level, it was okay. I still could understand what she meant. We don't want to be picking at every little mistake, and students just feel like they can't make mistakes. And if they make mistakes, it's okay, as long as you can understand them and you just work on it. If students seem to have similar mistakes across the board, then that's a way that I can say, okay, how do I reteach this? Or I can reuse it, use it again while I'm teaching or in my everyday conversation. I can do that to help them remember the concept. Now, context and content. So what this is talking about is what the student can do. In level 1, can they discuss political topics? No, that's not what they know how to do yet. They haven't developed those skills of deeper discussions or expansions with support or offering support. And it depends on their level, what they can do, what functions they're able to do at that point. So the overall is what we look at. And now I hope I can explain the picture of the trees. Janelle is really good at this. So the first tree that you see is bare. This represents the students who can just sign minimally. The next tree you see, there's some growth there. And that shows that the students can do more with the language, like maybe adding facial expressions or a variety of signs. They can put together different appropriate signs. So there's some growth there. The next one is really good. It's not 100% fully bloomed yet, but it has grown, and that shows where students have overcome the hardest part of their growing stage. They can understand more. You can understand them more. And then the fully blossomed tree is like anyone in the deaf community can understand them. We as teachers, we tend to kind of dial it down and we are sympathetic listeners. But those who don't teach the language, they will not understand the teachers. We have that. They won't understand the student. So, depending on the level, sometimes it may be only the teachers that understand them. We want to work it to where anybody in the community can understand them. And also so there's that range there. So the tree example is pretty much how we can look at our students. It doesn't mean that there's, right or wrong, and that's it. It is just the growth. We're looking at the growth and letting them try and progress.
Yes. Okay, so the information here really is just basic for you to understand about what the levels, what they look like. For here with novice, really, it's very short. Maybe there's just one word utterances, and that's all. And that's fine because they are still learning. It is what they can do. So remember, we're looking for what they are able to do. They give a short response, maybe they list things, and that's fine. Sometimes they're able to use a sentence, but it's a very short sentence, very simple. Maybe that is kind of like a memorized phrase that they've practiced over time. Like introductions are usually, with beginning students, that's usually something that they memorize very easily, or at least they memorize well. And, it's just like, hello, my name is. So they've practiced something like that a lot, and they can do it, and it looks great, and that's fine. That's good. You can praise them for what they're able to do, celebrate those accomplishments. Okay, so next, first, sorry, I did want to show you an example for this video on Novice, and I need to find my notes really quick. Let me find where that is.
Oh, and I wanted to add, please don't record or try to record these videos. Volunteers that were willing to kind of put themselves out there, show their weaknesses, and they might feel awkward. So please don't record or share this with other people. And it's because they volunteered to help Janelle and Casey with their research. So please do not record these videos. Thank you.
Thank you for adding that in there. I meant to add that point. So yeah, really, this is just for you to understand what it looks like. You kind of already know inside instinctually, you kind of know as you look at your students, you kind of know where they are. But this is just to help emphasize that point. Let me show you here about how to express something, what they can do. So it's important that you know to take note of that. And the main point here too is to also watch what he can do with the language up to this point. So, okay, so next, intermediate, we use this sign here. Cami, do you want to go ahead and do this one?
Yes, okay. So intermediate, I use this sign for it. The student can do more with the language, more sentence type phrases. They can put more information together to create with the language, and they're not doing full narrations quite yet, but they have simple phrases and sentences with some short expansions. That's basically what they can do.
Okay, now we will show an example of an intermediate level in this video clip. It's just short so that you can take a look. Sorry, I pushed a wrong button. I apologize. Okay, so that, Cami, do you want to explain about that one a little bit more?
Yes, so you can see that he could expand more. But did he go into great detail with all the different classifiers? No, he didn't, but he used what he knew and he tried and what he could do. There were more sentences, but they were still simple sentences with some expansion. So that's, he has good function. And he's really good at that level.
Yeah. And I wanted to add too that, our students tend to, okay, so for ASL, it seems that there are some students who really pick up on it very quickly. Maybe if they are entering a level 2 or level 3 and they're signing pretty good. And as a teacher, when we look at our students, we're very impressed and proud of them because they do very well. And sometimes as we really look closer at it, we really need to look at what they can do. Can they do that? Can they do these things? We have to take a look at that. And, a lot of those students, they really can do a lot. They can create with language. They can pull pieces in together and create those sentences. And, some of them are starting to learn how to narrate or describe with some expansions on it. And that's great. And so that's what we want to see happening in our classes. That they have more opportunities to learn how to use the sentences, the phrases, and how to create with language. Not just that, but how to narrate and to describe as well. Oh, yeah, good.
One example I just thought of, I went to see one of my colleagues to observe her classroom, and I believe she was teaching level 3, I'm not sure, but the bell rang, it was in between classes, and before the bell rang for class to start, I saw these 2 girls sitting together completely in ASL. Hey, do you remember that boy from MPE class? Well, yeah, let me tell you what happened. And I was so impressed. They were gossiping in ASL. Obviously, they pulled information from what they already know, and they created and chatted with each other. So that was really neat to see. If we give them opportunities, they will actually start chatting with each other in ASL.
Yeah, that's a really cool example. It's neat to see them live in action doing those things. Okay, so yeah, the next one level now is the advanced level. And the advanced level is, wow, they become more interactive in their dialogue. It's clearer. They're very involved. There's some turn taking going on, questioning and answering that is taking place, the back and forth. And then, as beginning students, we are focused on ourselves and things that relate to ourselves. But now we've expanded past that, including things that are world related, just all kinds of variety of topics related with that. Informal and formal topics are involved. Also, there's some explanations and more storytelling with the tense markers involved that are appropriate. When a situation comes up that wasn't expected, it kind of throws a wrench in things, the student is able to figure out how to solve that issue. And that's an ability that they develop, how they can provide a solution to the problem. And so really, they basically have some control over the aspects of the language, like facial expressions, your hand shape, your palm orientation. They don't have full control over it, but there will still be some mistakes. But it's what they can do with the language. And it's good. It's a good skill to have, yeah. So this person at the advanced level, it means that, maybe if a person who is deaf or who grew up with ASL, not a teacher, not the one who can make that switch happen, but they're able to comprehend this person at the advanced level, even though they're a second language learner. They can still comprehend. So that's an example too of that level. And now we want to show a video clip on that one. Let me check my number on that word. Okay, obviously here, you can see a difference between the intermediate level and the advanced level. More expansions are happening, more description. He's much more deep with his use of ASL, like how you sign something, how the inflections that are placed upon those verbs. And, at the advanced level, that is all included for narration and for description. And hopefully you can see what he's able to do with ASL, what his ability is. And, it's pretty impressive. So, okay, next really is just a short summary of the superior. Okay, Cami, do you want to do this?
So superior is incredible. It's really tough to find this with ASL. There's minimal errors. They can discuss any situation, any time, any tense, complex and academic language, theory, evaluation, supporting your opinions in detail. If they can describe in depth different perspectives, everything with the language. And for ASL, that can include storytelling, creativity within ASL. It just includes pretty much anything, and any native ASL user can understand them. And it can be casual or it can be more formal. And they can discuss abstract perspectives, or perhaps in their career and business scenarios, they can talk about a lot of different topics.
Yes, that's so true. Okay, we are finished with our presentation. Most of the information can be found at the actual website, so feel free to take a look at that and see what you can find there. There are plenty of things to learn there. You can decide if you want to use it, whether, for yourself or your students. Kind of keep an open mind of what ACTFL is and how it can apply to us, Remember, just ask the important question to yourself. What can they do? Don't be overcritical, but look at the things of what they can do and keep a positive, attitude with that. Make it good for the students. Applaud them for their work and what they're learning to do, that they're doing a great job. When I sit during an interview and, if that student, say, is a novice, and my gut feeling is telling me it's a novice, I still praise them and say they're doing a good job. I want to give them that praise because it's not easy to learn, become proficient with ASL. It requires hours of study and practicing, interacting and comprehension. And so, encourage your students, praise them for the accomplishments that they do achieve. And I hope that you've enjoyed this presentation. Cami, do you want to add anything?
Yes, really. If you have any questions or any thoughts that come to you, just feel free to talk with us. We can discuss it. Our emails are there. You can just join us and answer different questions as you go through this journey.
That's true. We're still on this journey. We still are.
Oh my gosh, so many great reminders. Like I was like trying to type them all, type my notes and try to like crazy, but wow, this is gonna sound, I have two things that are gonna sound really foolish. But we're gonna go with it. I'm gonna own it. Not foolish, but ignorant, where of course there are so many great reminders. Of course there are parallels, but I was like, oh, wow, great. Like, oh yeah, like, you know, proficiency over perfection, all those reminders all of us need, but of course that's the same. Like, why would, you know, I just, you don't know what you don't know, I guess. And then the second thing was I was giggling like a super weirdo over here to myself because I could not in the video clip figure out at first, like, you know how the students, the first couple days of class in whatever language, they're like looking around. That was me. I was watching going, which one's the teacher? Because it was the novice, like the novice signer. And then the teacher, and I was like it felt like when a colleague walks in and the kids and speaks in Spanish and then we converse and students are like, watch it like back and forth, what's going on. It took me a second. And then I was like, okay, it's like the blondish, like redheaded guy on the left. Okay. And then I was good. But what a cool range to see as a person who maybe knows 3 signs total, like incredible. And like, it was very clear that the benchmarks still applied, if that makes sense. Like you could, you know, they could respond to things. And then the third one, I think they're advanced, when he made his teacher laugh, like I put in the chat, that made me super happy because he was like genuinely, it seemed entertained by what he was saying. And like, that seemed like a genuine kind of hearty moment.
I'm trying to catch up with the chat because when I pulled it up, Cami texted me and said, no. Are you on chat? So I couldn't
the other one.
Chat.
My life.
Oh, I'm going to try to hurry and pick up what you guys were.
Please. No worries. As just some great reminders and like a couple of quotes. And then I dropped your program link at the end, but yeah, man, like I can remember I had my own Spanish teacher. It's our 20-year anniversary for like meeting, which she was horrified by, which I said, like, as she was on here, I was like, oh, sorry, my bad. But she was on here and we were talking about that, like different, especially with novices, you know, different kind of heartwarming moments and different hard moments and just all the things to keep in mind. Like you said, you know, that your rubrics are inclusive of errors, of course, and that things like that we are honest with ourselves about what learning a language looks like and sounds like and reads like, if that's appropriate, you know, all of the things. And I can remember I can remember 2 things. I can remember the first time I made her laugh is when I was like pretending to swear, but I didn't know any swear words. And so I was like, oh, caca, you know, and I thought that was really funny. And she laughed really hard at that. I remember in like Spanish 1. And then she, just as a pattern of behavior, she was always delighted when I used the language, you know, especially improvisational. I would go, I mean, you know, I remember learning exclamations in Spanish. You go, oh, like, it's literally like, what terrible, what fantastic. You don't say how. And so I remember saying like, what a day. Like in my mind, I was like, that's gotta be it. Right. And so I had like a terrible day. I was like, oh, que dia. And she just like laughed out loud. Like that was always her. She was always delighted by using the language, and how powerful is that, and hard to sustain. Good for her, because it's not always good and not always understandable. And it's like, keep it coming. Yeah, do whatever. No idea what you're saying. Like that kind of thing. So I don't know if you find the same experience in ASL as well, like the same positive reinforcement, like Nelson mentioned, like just continuing to be positive and, you know, encouraging.
Yeah, I think it's hard for students when they're hitting those roadblocks, especially, and every language student goes through that, where they just hit it, they just don't feel like they can get past it.
Yeah. Right.
And
that's all I have.
Yeah. Like in ASL, it's kind of interesting when we were talking about it at the beginning, the novice to the intermediate kind of comes quickly. And I don't know if that's the same with other languages. Maybe it is, that they pick up enough that they can start, you know, putting the sentences together and creating with the language. But then it's right at that intermediate to the advanced where they just have to do lots more practice.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and it's the heart. I forgot to add a little spotlight so that people can see. Yeah, it's deceptively fast, because what does Bill Van Patten call it? Like intermediate-like behavior. Suddenly they do, so they add something original and you're like, Janelle, you've made it. You know, like, Cami, yay, you added your own original, like you're looking at the indicators like, okay, connects separate thoughts and levels up with whatever, with a little sexy, also, or however, and you're like, oh, we've arrived. And then they stay in intermediate forever, like for so, and or just like stall out there. And that's really hard to remind them. I don't know. It's like such a journey, such a different journey for all learners. I think that it's really hard to go like, no, you're doing fine. Cause then they feel like they're not learning. Like it's not going as fast. It's like getting in shape and then kind of plateauing, like I want to lift more. I want to go faster. I want to run more, like, and I can't, it's obstacle, I think is the perfect word for that. It feels like, or a hurdle. It feels like a hurdle.
Yeah. And I also think too, as teachers, if we look at our intermediate level students and we see, like, we ask them questions about your family, tell me about your family. So then all of a sudden they're putting all these things in about their family. Well, we have to remember that something like family is something that is very rehearsed and they carry it with them through somebody's always asking about their family. So that's something they get to practice often. Now we get into, okay, what's the latest story that you've been reading? And all of a sudden you're asking them to do something that they may not have practiced, or they might not know what's in that language. And so when you're asking them that question, this is kind of where you say, okay, can you just tell me about what happened on your camping trip? Can you tell me about your work, your first day at work? What happened? Like, what did that look like for you? And so you start asking them some questions that are not rehearsed questions. It really makes them create with the language. Like, they have to figure out how to answer you. But it also allows you to see, okay, how much are they going over from intermediate to advanced? What are they doing? How are they doing it? How often are they doing it? And can they do it? Like, are they jumping over a lot or just a little bit? Maybe they don't have enough vocabulary, or like in ASL, maybe they don't have enough classifiers and how to use a classifier appropriately at that level with a description or a narration of an event. And so, you can really, as teachers, you can really start thinking, okay, how can I ask my students, or how can I prepare them for one thing before, like a backward design? What's my ending goal? How can I help prepare them to be able to reach that? And then start asking them about those kinds of things where they can pull what they know, they can pull it and put it into, their phrases, their responses, their interactions. Yeah, it's good.
And that's a great point too, like, of the family thing, because now I'm like, there are so many, what is so helpful is defining some of the, we know like the normal, the kind of like typical novice themes where Cami, like you said, novice is, and I just use that as an example because that's my judge, is, like you said, it's all about me, like my family, my classes, my house, my, whatever. It's like me, it's my world. I'm just living, it's my world and everyone's living in it. But you're right. I think that is exactly like another sort of language-like behavior is like, oh, sí, pues claro, mi familia es muy grande, and it's like, oh my God, her Spanish is so good. We've written about and talked about family 78,000 times. Like, she better have, my family is very big, or whatever. And like, those also aren't, like, two of those are cognates. So, kind of what are we not, it's like not being overly critical, but also like yours at like being like appropriately leveled or critical or whatever, to be like, easy there, because we might give them a task, that goes beyond. I can remember doing a lot of role play in my head, because what you get as a fair-skinned, blue-eyed person is like, where'd you learn Spanish? Even though there are literally millions of people who are native speakers of Spanish who look like I do, but whatever. Immediately, and they detect an American accent too, and yada, yada, yada in my Spanish. But it's like, oh, where did you learn? And I remember that being the first time that I really like grasped the preterite, is because I was like, like we had just started kind of seeing some of the endings and some of the parallels and structures. And I was like, people would say, aprendiste so much. Did you learn? Aprendiste. ¿Dónde aprendiste? ¿Cómo aprendiste? And it was almost like, so we're switching the question words. How'd you learn? Where'd you learn? When did you learn? But it was always, did you learn? And I remember being like, Oh, like early level too, because I would try to use it. And I think you rehearse a lot of those conversations in your head. I know Bill Van Patten says, again, with a BVP reference, but he says role plays are not effective. And, you know, Sandra Savignon says role plays are very, you know, effective in communicative language teaching. I think there's some mental role play there as well. And I imagine with ASL too, I mean, going through, there's some physical, like what was the word, manual, maybe role play that, I don't know, do people do that? Like ever run through kind of conversations and literally like sign through it?
And that's, I think, what helps the student detect where they're lacking, and the teacher too.
Right.
Where, especially if you get into the higher intermediate level or advanced level, where you say to yourself, okay, we are now talking about government and politics.
Right.
I mean, that is not an everyday conversation. Usually that's not something in the language classroom.
I would hope.
Yeah. And so we don't teach those formally. I mean, sometimes that's learned outside in the community or wherever, but you know, there's nothing wrong with the rehearsed, because they have to have the rehearsed to get fluent. You have to be able to sign something a million times so that you can sign it correctly. Hopefully you're signing it correctly.
Right.
But yeah, I think that is,
yeah, I think so. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's really complex, and I think that's exactly it. It's almost like that Carol Swain thing of you correct yourself when you hear others using, or you see others signing things you don't know. Like you almost then hear yourself say, what, like output theory, you know, like you hear yourself saying it wrong, and then somebody else said, and you're like, oh, that's what I meant. And why don't I, that kind of thing. There's got to be some of that in there too, because, you know, I find that with, again, like a not signed or and spoken language, like all the time, when that's exactly when you know where your gaps are, is you start rehearsing in your head and you're like, okay, especially other tenses, like, you know, what do you want me to say? Like in Spanish, that's what do you want that I say? Like that's subjunctive, even though in English it's just like like an infinitive, like to say. Things like that. She told me that I had to go there. It's like I still think of stuff like that all the time, just in case, you know. But there's enough of like rehearsal that it comes out and you're like, I'm using the thing, the thing that I practiced in my head or whatever. Yeah, I think that's got to be, I don't know. I think that's important, or at least it was important for me as a learner. Man,
yeah,
I can't, you guys are incredible. You like, my mind is just going to be like, I know it probably did not, I know it's like what you do all the time, but man, like I'm going to be thinking about this for a while, because again, just the parallels. I know that sounds really silly. It shouldn't be surprising, but it's just like, I don't know, reassuring or something. I don't know.
You know, one of the chat messages, I don't know if it was from Cami or if she was responding to somebody. I was trying to go through it pretty quickly, but it was the rubric that we use to, you know, evaluate the students. And I had, when we very first started a project for BYU for this, one of our team members, he was asking questions like, hey, at what level do we say, okay, maybe like at the novice level, they know one classifier. And then at the intermediate level,
right,
students will know how to do 5 classifiers. And I'm thinking, you know what, you can't really put a number on it. You can't.
Right.
Because it's just, it's like what ACTFL does. It's the overall function. What are they doing overall? Are they using some things, but are they using appropriately? And is it, you know, are they creating with the language? Are they narrating? Right. And is that including these kinds of things? So, you know, that was a really good discussion, good discovery. This is still very new. I mean, ACTFL does not have ASL yet. Right. They are working on it, but they had an announcement at one of their conferences that they were going to have an OPI and an Apple test both. So we're excited that they're working on these things.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And so, you know, so the ASL community, really, this is still a baby kind of thing. I don't even know if they know about it much. Like maybe certain people who are involved with ACTFL, they know that it's coming, but overall across the country, I am not sure how many of our ASL teachers understand that you can apply ACTFL. You can use it just like your other world languages use it. You can, you know, apply it with your students. You can use it as an assessment tool. And it works. It does work. It's just a matter of figuring out what does it look like,
right,
and how we can use it, how we can apply it in our classroom and help our students increase their proficiency. So,
yeah, well, absolutely. And I think showcasing like what they can do, like not what they haven't learned yet. They're not the haven't learned yet statements. They're the can do statements, like this is what they can do. But I think that's really hard. I think our job centers, well, I mean, we know it's really hard, but I think about this a lot. Like our job centers so much around just our job as teachers, like in education, just power and being right and having the right answer, like pre-internet, so like 20 years ago, we just didn't know stuff. There was stuff we just, okay, I guess we'll just not know that. And I find this an interesting thing that's changed because I think before there was not really any other way, and like there wasn't as much content and input in life. Like we just did not have 6,700 warring opinions about like every, Kanye West and like whatever, like this brand of toilet seat. Like I didn't know that there were 13,000 reviews on Amazon until whatever. We're so inundated with content that I think our students are as well. And so they start like, we're no longer the authority figure. We're no longer like the know-all necessarily, because they're like, that doesn't seem like a fact. And like, boop, there's Google, and we're like, oh, So I think our position has changed from being the sort of like knower of things and purveyor of information to now really having to look at things that kind of dangled that carrot, like some of those rubrics for a long time. I mean, that's how I was taught to teach, and probably how I was taught, but I don't remember because I did well. So I had that also experiential privilege of like front row, tell me everything, like, hi, more words. And I was here for everything Spanish class. So if a rubric took off 2 points for an accent, like I didn't really lose sleep over it because I was like, oh man, I'm going to get that 100 next time. But that 98, like, didn't really bother me or whatever. But we look at some of those practices now and man, kids will call you down on it. Like kids are like, I was just wondering why I missed, 12 points here, because this actually is 8 sentences. And I thought you said connector sentences. So you said 4 full sentences, and you're like, now I'm doing algebra. I mean, we're in like the last week of school, so this is also my month of like, stop grade grubbing. But like and good for them. Like they're advocating for themselves like we tell them to do until they do it. And then we're like, not with me though. But, we're no longer the end all be all of the things. We don't go, boop, okay, 86, stamp, goodbye. And no one questions it. And it's listen to your teacher does, but like, that ship has sailed. And so I think the holistic rubrics, to me, I say that to say, is a part of that. That's been, I think that's why it's a hard shift for people in a big way, is because like, but what do you mean I can't say how many mistakes they can make? What do you mean I can't say, what was the word you used? Classifiers? Is that, yeah, I remember it was a C word. Like how many classifiers they used, or this number of blank, like, yeah, like, I don't know, what was the message? Did you understand what they were saying? Well, yes, but, and it's like, oh, just leave it there. Like that's just, you gotta be, did they do the task? Did you understand what they were saying? That's gotta be it a little bit. And I think that's really hard for people.
Yeah. I think that the shift from the grade-based to proficiency-based, that's a really tough shift. And trying to get people to even open their mind up to it,
right.
Sometimes, because teachers work hard,
right?
And changing requires more work.
Yes.
And so why would we want to change when what we're doing seems to be working just fine?
So like, keep doing the same thing. Come on.
I know. We're all stuck in that rut. It's yeah.
And the better you get at it, the easier it gets. Oh, so like to feel like you're starting over in some ways, or like disrupting the apple cart, is no, why would I do that? Like, and it's never easy. Like you said, our work is so personal and it's so hard that we never have like an easy year. It's like 1 year you're growing your family. The next year, like you got a dog. 2 years later, you decided to sponsor a club. And I'm thinking like, secondary and primary people, but like higher ed too. I mean, something like life is always happening. So if we're waiting for some magical, like, I just wanted to take it easy this year, not happening. And also like, that's probably not going to be the year you're going to change all your rubrics either, or next year or the year after. You just have to kind of like you said, kind of shift gradually, but also just embrace it, I guess, because it's just not, I think it's going to continue being implemented. And then people who don't shift, unfortunately, maybe like most things are going to be further kind of ostracized and maybe like on the fringe. And that doesn't feel good either, but you know.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, Janelle, Cami, thank you so much. I super, super appreciate you for just, the scheduling. And I was like, one date. We have one date that works. And the time change and just everything. We went 7 minutes into the after party. Sorry. Super, super appreciate like all of your knowledge, all of your time and everything. And I wish ACTFL was going to be in person this year because it was going to be out kind of toward you. It was going to be in Christina's neck of the woods there in San Diego, but
yeah. Well, Cami and I did have a proposal that got accepted. So we are going to present. Yeah. So we're excited. Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. I keep trying to get one about shifting to proficiency called Shift or Get Off the Pot accepted. They won't do it.
Man.
Then I was like, shift happens? Come on. But they get your shift together. I'm trying to, every time they're like, one of these days, you're going to see it. You're going to be like, I knew she'd do it. Like,
she's on there. They finally gave it.
They finally caved. I will listen, Howie, I'm coming for you. Yeah, no, absolutely. One of these days. Well, that's awesome. Enjoy that. And obviously congrats.
We're excited to get the words from you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Check your email in about 30 minutes for a little treat, a little something.
Oh,
and yeah, no, thank you. And just incredible. I'm going to be thinking for the rest of the evening. and
well, hopefully it's motivating. And thank you for everyone who participated. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Cool. And I'll put, Cami, we were on the same page. I'll put little like blurs over the faces. I had to learn how to do that. Yeah, I was like, exactly. After I'd paused it, I thought, I just put the circles over. But I got to remember how to do it at school. I accidentally took a whole screencast, like showing kids at the beginning of the year how to access online grades and lesson plan, because they don't know, even though we were doing computer school. And I realized halfway through that I was in an actual student's account because I mirrored them. And so their student numbers like splashed ahead. So I was like, I hadn't posted anywhere, of course, but I'm like, let me learn how to do this. So should be able to do it in a jiffy.
Perfect. That will work great. That actually.
I thought, duh. Like, why don't I just do that? Since I had to like.
And I guess we don't think of doing that because facial expressions are important when they're viewing it.
Absolutely. Right. You're like, not the face, don't cover the face. Yeah. That's been something this year with the mask too, is like, you would have asked me, like, if you'd asked me a year ago, whatever, 15 months ago, I would have said, I think the most expressive part of the face is probably the eyes. Lies. Like now I'm like, it's the mouth, because I'm constantly like overcompensating with my eyes and my eyebrows because you can't see what the rest of my face is doing. That's so awkward.
It's true.
Like, it's cool. Kids are like, who's talking? I mean, like, Cami, you're in high school. You go like, hi, slow down, please, pull up your mask, and they're like, who's talking to me? Because they can't see, and you're like, it's me. It's like so weird. It's really, really difficult, and more so than I anticipated. I thought like, the eyes will be okay. They'll see smiling eyes. No. Nothing. It's weird. Yeah.